Scot Eaton is a longtime friend of mine, but you may know him better as the designer, or one of the designers, of Codenames Duet. If you missed the last designer diary, he's currently working on designing a series of games that go in Christmas ornaments with holiday themes with Garland Games. What you're going to see in this designer diary is him walking through the process of designing the frantic dexterity game, Snow Day.
So one of the joys we had on the Garland line was letting people who were established within the board game industry get the chance to be a designer. Jordan and I had enough experience between us that we knew we could help guide that process. Fast forwarding through the early part of someone's design journey where they make more mistakes than successes, I had suggested that we reach out to an artist. Kwanchai was obviously at the top of our list, and Jordan immediately pulled out his phone and texted Kwanchai. We never even got to the point of brainstorming a second name. As soon as Jordan sent him a message, he and his employee, Jina, responded with an enthusiastic yes almost immediately. So fast forward to our first meeting. I was trying to show Kwanchai and Jina that I was a developer who knew his stuff. I wanted to bring up ideas from other games, give them things to try, dazzle them with my knowledge. So I went to my shelf and I pulled out a game. I said, "Have you ever played Catacombs?" And as I held the box up to the camera, the back came into my eye line, and what did I see but Kwanchai's name staring straight at me. Later in the meeting, I brought up a game called Kabuto Sumo and realized he had illustrated that too. In fact, every game that I could think of to reference, Kwanchai was the illustrator. I was forced to admit something. Kwanchai had far more experience with dexterity games than I did. Kwanchai and Jina sent us one of the most unique pitch documents I've ever seen. There was no component list, no setup instructions, not a single data table in sight. It was actually closer to a webcomic than anything else. But the one thing that it did have was clarity. There was a sense of motion and kineticism to the sketches. Before I even heard the rules, I knew what it would feel like to land a snowball throw from across the table. As a developer, I hope I get that experience again someday. The bones of the game were pretty solid. Players would move one disc that represented themselves, and then flick other discs to be snowballs. Moving would have one set of mechanics, and throwing another. There would be trees and other obstacles on the playing field, and there would be NPCs who would give you bonuses. Lastly, there would be dice that would give you extra actions. Already, there was so much to love. Flicking something other than your player disc meant that you have built-in triangulation. You can have a tree that your player disc is sitting behind, but you still have room to throw a snowball around it and get a straight shot at your opponent. The NPCs gave you something to do other than just chuck snowballs at each other, and uncertain actions because of the bonus die mitigated for skill gaps. Kwanchai and Jina knew their stuff, and they'd created an engaging system. Unfortunately, I can't say that this game was developed quickly. Sometimes it's actually harder to work with something that's almost there than it is to work with something that needs major revisions. When I was asked about my progress, I said for far longer than I would like, well, the game's got all the right ingredients, but I'm still trying to figure out how to put them together into the right recipe. There were two big breakthroughs, though, that got the game to its final form. The first breakthrough was how to handle the NPCs. So in Snow Day, moving into the NPCs can grant you bonus actions. For example, if you move your player disc into Dad, he'll give you extra move. If you move your player disc into Mom, she'll help you recover your gloves. The dog gets spooked and creates a yellow snowball. It's worth 2 hits if you can land it. The question was, how do you bring the NPCs onto the table? Originally, we had one of the 6 die faces on the bonus die bring out an NPC. We figured that would balance out, but randomness doesn't work like that. We had games where NPCs never came out, and then the next game when we'd play, we'd get NPCs coming out multiple times in a single turn. So after prodding the game for a while, we came up with a solution to make the NPCs into the round markers. So each round you bring a new one onto the table, and when there's no more NPCs to bring out, the game's in its final round. This added some escalation too. In round 1, you had a max of 1 bonus action from the NPC. But by round 6, you could potentially gain 8 bonus actions if you played perfectly, and that became the flow of the game. Chain actions together to get extra actions. use the bonus dice, use the NPCs, and get turns that have a huge swing. The second breakthrough we had was that we needed to use set collection and not victory points to determine an early victory. So there was one main problem with Snow Day. If someone got into a bad position, everyone else on the table could launch snowball after snowball at them and just rack up points. And then if you were in a 4-player game, you would almost invariably end up with groups of 2 where one person kept chasing the other to rack up points. We came up with a rather fun solution to that, which was to ditch points entirely and make victory tied to set collection. So, if you got hit, you surrendered one of your gear. That is hat, scarf, gloves, but you gained a bonus die. So on your next turn, you will get more actions. In order to win, you had to collect 1 piece of gear or 2 pieces of gear, depending on player count, from every person at the table. And once you had enough gear from them, you couldn't score more points. You couldn't score more. You had to turn your attention and target someone else. This mostly worked, but it still was that a lucky turn could end up swinging the whole game. Even though Snow Day wasn't my design, I brought it to my local design group to see if anyone could think of a solution. One of them, thanks Nick, I see you, found a rather ingenious solution. You had to not only score gear from everybody, but you also had to get all of yours back. This felt so right on so many levels. Thematically, you had to end with your gear. Mechanically, you got bonus die only from your missing gear. So when you hit someone, did you take gear from their color, giving them a bonus die, or did you take gear of your color, losing your own bonuses? So this drove people to creativity and to making new combos from the NPCs. It made the game dynamic, high stakes, back and forth. It's exactly what you'd want from a game about snowball fights. In the end, I'm honored to have worked with Kwanchai and Jina on their first published design. Snow Day ended up being something truly special. If you'd like to play Snow Day or check out some of the other games we have in the Garland Ornaments line, go to garlandgames.indietoylab.com. It'll bring you to a Kickstarter. We have 6 games in ornaments like this, and Snow Day fits inside one of these and goes straight on your tree. I'd love to tell you more.